Go Yanks.
We're off to a terrible start already. John?
Okay. So good morning, everyone. Thanks for coming. We're excited about the panel today, so we'll dive right into it. We'll start with a couple intros. So Jeff, why don't you give a
Sure.
intro of yourself?
Sure, I'm Jeff Moriarty. I'm VP for digital products for the Boston Globe and Boston.com, and Boston.com is the largest regional website in the country. And BostonGlobe.com we launched just this last week as a companion to our large portal for Boston, which will be ultimately be a paid paid site for consumers. So.
Okay.
And I'm Brendan Monaghan. I run business development for the Slate Group, which is made up of Slate Magazine, which is our flagship, as well as The Root and Foreign Policy Magazine. So that's the group, and we focus naturally across the web, but also a variety of mobile platforms.
And I'm John Lojoko. I head up biz dev for Outbrain, and we're passionate about giving publishers the ability to get great recommendations in front of their readers, no matter if they're hitting the content through smartphones, tablets, or sites. So in our foray into this, we've had the pleasure to work with publishers and have uncovered all kinds of exciting things to talk about. So let's kick it off. We'll do 20 minutes-ish, and then we'll leave some time for Q&A at the end. So if you've got some questions, we'll get you at the end. So let's sort of break it up into technology first, and then we'll talk about monetization. So Jeff, why don't you kick us off with why does Boston need two sites?
Yeah.
So what are you doing?
So as we all know, we've all struggled to monetize our content, and so we looked at last year. We looked at our audience on Boston.com, which is about 7 million unique users a month. We saw that we had really two distinct audiences. One that was very casual, came into the site from time to time, sort of snacked on content. And then we saw another group that was there to really for the Globe's content, really for the journalism that we produce in Boston every day. So we saw these distinct groups, and I don't think we were serving either extremely well, in particular the Boston Globe audience. So we took that audience and built a product that we think really meets their needs, which is a much cleaner, more of an ad-free environment that really highlights the content. And we think that the combination of the experience and the content being presented in this way, and sort of being exclusive now, a lot of it being exclusive to BostonGlobe.com, will be the beginning of a consumer revenue stream for us.
Okay. So both sites the plan is that both sites will be out there.
Yeah, so Boston.com will still be ad supported, so it'll have an ad model and be free, and BostonGlobe.com will sort of live alongside it as its paid sister. So we expect a lot of people may use both, depending on if you fall into both groups of users or not.
Okay, cool. And then Brendan, on your mobile strategy, what are you thinking about here in terms of format?
Yeah, so Slate's been around for a long time. We're one of the first, if not the first, web magazine, if you think about it that way. And our perspective has been, with regards to mobile, just in general, naturally being on the web early, we wanted to be in places as early as possible. So way back when we kind of had the mobile site, we were developing the app for BlackBerry several years ago, and then naturally have moved into both the iPhone, iPad / Android dichotomy universe, as well as thinking more along the lines, I know we'll talk about this today, HTML5, and really how do we want our users to engage our content, as well as how do we want to think about the audience that visits and our sister publications. Are people frequent users? Are they coming back often and want their daily fix of Slate? They know it, they love it, or are they just exploring and just encountering for the first time and coming across our content? So trying to treat audiences kind of differently based on their experience with our content and try and engage them.
So let's take just a quick show of hands. Are there publishers in the room that are sort of on the cusp of redoing their mobile sites? Is anybody sort of on the cliff of decision making? No? Everybody's got their strategy nailed down? Okay. So Jeff, since everybody's good on that, let's talk about the Boston Globe and HTML5. I mean, you made a bet
Yeah, we really early on decided that the best approach for us would be to create a site that was as accessible on as many devices as possible. So we used a couple of techniques, HTML5 we used, and then we used a technique called responsive design, which is the idea of a flexible grid so that the site is built to adapt dynamically to your screen size. So you can see it on the site that it will adjust the columns, number of columns, photo sizes on the fly, but ultimately it's designed so that no matter which size tablet or phone you're coming in on, it will be optimized to that screen. So we really focus our energy on creating a website that has app-like features. We've also developed some offline reading capabilities, somewhat similar to what the Financial Times has done with their web app. So we really are at this point really focused on building something that has the maximum accessibility. And native apps for us are something that we may still do, but in the long run, it has to be additive. We think that as a news site, there are a lot of things you can do with a really well designed and developed website, and news publications don't necessarily need all of the native components that others would need if you're doing gaming or other things like that. So we felt we could really do it justice by really using HTML5 and using what is the most popular app on anyone's phone, which is the browser. So that's where we focus our energy.
How about you, Brendan? What's your view on HTML5 and apps?
Yeah, so we've kind of taken a dual approach. It's so early for us right now, is we feel like it's still getting cleared out and clarified as to how our audiences consume our content. So I think our perspective has been, the apps have been phenomenal. We've seen a lot of engagement, particularly around kind of core users. So naturally, people come to our mobile site, we direct them to the app as well to try and hopefully increase that engagement and then coming back to our content. But we've also done some stuff with HTML5, particularly on the iPad, wanting to create that kind of more, kind of app-like experience through the mobile browser experience. And the jury's still out for us. It's still early enough in being in the past year or so that we want to really kind of play in both fields and figure out where our audience engages the most. Is it, as I said earlier, is it people coming to Slate for the first time, or is it people who are really committed to coming back to us frequently and want that app? They want some of the push notification things. They want podcasts and videos right at their fingertips like we present in the app to make it a really engaging experience. So for us, the mobile web is very important and one that we continue to develop for. But I think for now, we're going to continue to develop both and kind of see where our audience takes us.
So it's interesting, at Outbrain, we speak with publishers about making recommendations in their mobile environments, and the conversation seems to bucket into three areas. One is folks taking the dive into HTML5 to make it easier on themselves in terms of maintenance. Folks playing in the app environment to sort of give their most loyal readers a better experience, like Brendan. And then what's been surprising to us is the mobile optimized version of publishers, right? So mobile.boston.com, mobile.slate.com is where all the traffic is. So talk to us about why is that, and is it going to shift? Do you think that's going to stay that way? What do you think?
I mean, I think we believe that it's probably going to continue to grow and be harder and harder to get apps installed on users' devices. It's sort of our operating assumption that there will probably be 10 apps that any one person installs for like the beachfront real estate on their phone, and we may be able to be one of those apps, but we do know that if you want to know what's going on in Boston every morning, you'll fire up a browser or a link from your home screen pretty easily. But installing something is, I think, going to become a much bigger hurdle down the road as websites get smarter and smarter. At least that's part of it that we're making. I mean, we were in a unique position because BostonGlobe.com didn't exist until now, so we were able to build it from the beginning with this in mind. And not a lot of publishers can sort of start over like we were able to do with this site. So we decided to come at it from this direction later and then come to native apps later.
Yeah, I mean, the thing I wrestle with is just in terms of user behavior, in terms of the screen size. I mean, naturally on I think about this from a couple different angles, but one, when I'm sitting at my desktop, it's pretty easy, to engage in the browser. I'm used to that activity. But in terms of going to the mobile browser, I mean, you get a lot of traffic there. There's no question, and I think kind of bang for the buck wise, that's probably where we'll probably start to skew our efforts. And I think that the other point too is talking about applications, as you say. When we started this a year ago, there were so few apps in there. You can get a lot of recognition from Apple if you had a dynamic net app and you're able to invest in the resources. But now, there's just so much out there, particularly in the news category like we both operate in, that it's hard to get that recognition and that kind of mind share for people in terms of app downloads and that real estate, as you say, on their app devices or on their mobile devices. I think at the same time, it's figuring out how best to engage that user from the mobile experience and how to encourage that kind of repeat visiting, if you will. I think apps are so easy to just kind of, okay, I definitely want to have a slate on bostonglobe.com. I can do that pretty easily and dynamically through a pretty small screen. And so how we think about that is something that I think we're going to be wrestling with. I know you guys are, to get that person to come back to the browser when it's a little harder to type it in than it is to start posting.
So what about the cost of apps? Is that on your track list, and how many can you do? What's the?
Well, I know it is for us. As a newspaper, we all know we've had struggles in the past few years. So, we've had to be really, really careful about where we spend our money, and we found it really difficult, even in a market like Boston, which has a lot of college students, to get good quality app developers. And otherwise, you spend a fortune building an app that you then have to update in 3 or 4 months. So we still do develop native applications for Boston.com, and we'll continue to do that. But it's a major cost. So we're trying to bring in talent into our shop that is more general and more around HTML5 and CSS3 and some of these other more standard technologies. We think that'll take us months in the long run. We have partners outside who will help us with the native app development.
Yeah, I mean, I was just at a mobile panel in DC the other night, and all 5 of the speakers raised their hands and said, looking for developers. Everyone does it, and I'm sure everyone in this room has that challenge to some degree, and so that naturally factors into the cost equation for us in terms of how we're going to go about developing future resources. I mean, we've got an in-house tech team, but for a lot of our application development work, we actually farm that out. And in terms of development, I think we're going to reach a point. I know we are, in fact, very shortly, where we're going to decide how much more we want to buy versus build. I think early, a lot of folks bought, and with some mixed results. I know we had some challenges early on with some of the partners we chose. And I think going forward, it's a matter of, do we bring resources in-house and how do we manage those resources? It is a challenge for us. I think in terms of the cost of that development, I think that's the place where we do spend the most. And I think, that's where I think moving to the mobile web is going to be a little more akin to what we do on the web already, and cost effective for us to do so. So I think in terms of expenditures, that's where we'll see kind of more bang for the buck coming, but we still want to have that app presence, at least for now, so we can engage our users in a way to become accustomed to engaging us.
Okay. So we'll transition. It's a good transition to the monetization issue, right? So the pattern, what's interesting as Outbrain comes from a technology perspective, is we have publishers monetize their traffic on the web, and we see a lot of this traffic on the mobile web, but yet it's going largely unmonetized, right? A lot of it's not being sold, but yet there are bright spots. We talk to publishers that have put out apps, and like for Fashion Week, there are some New York assets here where their apps are sold out because of Fashion Week, because an advertiser has figured out that they can put together a rich media campaign, and so monetization seems to have these little bright slivers of opportunity, but we know from a technology perspective that there are hundreds of millions of page views going unmonetized. So talk about what do we do?
Yeah, I mean, in our particular case with the Globe site, when we went to agencies and we showed it to them, they loved it, and we showed how we can optimize the ad positions and the ad sizes for different screen sizes across Android, across any OS that you're on with this browser. and they thought it was amazing, but they had no idea what to do with it because they're still thinking about mobile as this separate little silo and a separate buy where they're buying these small banners across apps and across sites. And we started to ask them about when they see that being more of a holistic buying experience where your ad, you just give us 4 or 5 pieces of creative that'll run on our website, it'll run across. We get 6 designs, so 6 different tablet and phone sizes, and that's just sort of commonplace. I don't think the marketing community is there yet, but I wonder if that's where it will go. But now in terms of our mobile sites in general, it's really difficult because it is sort of a separate thing. It seems like a separate thing in the buying community, and we just haven't really been able to tap into it yet.
Yeah, I mean, I think for us, it's been, whenever we've dusted off the iPad app or the Android app, and we get this enormous interest kind of for the shiny new, launch. A lot of us do. I wonder professionally, the apps that you mentioned, I'm sure they got a ton of adoption. Then a week after Fashion Week or a month after, what happens then? And frankly, that happens to us too. I mean, we have a strong sales force. We're part of the Washington Post company, so we're able to get, some good monetization, but nowhere near the fill rates we want to see across a variety of platforms. Of course, there's the ad network model, et cetera. But we're still seeing mobile be kind of sidelined, if you will. I don't want to say it's a throw, it's not. It's a unique experience. It's something we're selling separately. But more often than not, it's looking at a big reach buy and then, what are you doing on mobile? There's some advertisers, the carriers come to mind, people that really want to be engaged on those apps and the mobile experiences in general, mobile websites. But it's still coming along.
And there's certainly the opportunity, we hope, that people will pay for content on the apps or within the website. So we're making a bet there too, that there's value in the content that we provide, and that consumers will be willing to pay for that if it's in the right context and it's priced right. So that may be another way to do that.
That's a good point. I mean, I think taking some of the activities that we've done on the web, engaging folks in a mobile way. I mean, a good example for us is our readers are really heavy consumers of media, and so naturally what we do is, as an extension of that, we put links into Amazon and drive people to the purchase experience. One great thing we know, for example, when talking to Android, is you can engage that user, put those links in, you can click on that reference to that book. The Amazon app will now open. Someone can purchase something on the fly. They hear about a book they want to read, if they've read the slate, they go and do that. Those are types of things where we're trying to supplement the display revenue. We do that, really working on that part on the web, but also on the mobile opportunities. We talk about there's other ways we want to try and engage and monetize that audience, so we're not so reliant on display advertising as we are on the web.
Yeah, I think from our perspective, we looked at the activity of mobile readers across the publisher sites, and to our surprise, it's actually, we did a handout for you guys just to have it, but we look at the engagement, the difference of engagement between readers clicking on links to pieces of content on websites versus the mobile websites, and we found that it didn't matter whether it was a link to a piece of content that was being paid for distribution, or an organic link that points back into the publisher. In either case, in terms of that content recommendation, the mobile readers were 60% more engaged on the links than they were on the web. So that's an early data point, but was a very exciting and interesting point because it really points to the fact that the mobile audience is willing to click on things that are monetized, but it's what are they willing to click on, and it seems like the traditional way of monetizing on the web with interruptive forms of advertising are less tolerant on the small screen. But in the reverse, if you give them something interesting, then they may exhibit increased behavior to monetize.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think there's also maybe a bit early because I know from personal experience, I see a link and the chance of that link being a mobile optimized page is slim. So a lot of times, I don't, what am I clicking on and what am I going to actually see and how's that going to be designed? Is it actually designed for mobile? It's amazing how much content, how many ads you click on that still go to mobile optimized site. So
Get the big,
yeah,
5 words
and
and
try
title.
through, and it's it can be really frustrating. So I think there may be still a little bit of wariness to link out, and I think that's part of what we're trying to do in creating a clean ecosystem of content within the website. But I'm sure that will change as publishers and advertisers begin to do more in this area.
In our business, we cut across publishers and marketers, and I think our estimation is that the app frenzy has sort of confused people. So we see marketers all the time talking about apps to try to get folks engaged with their brand, but yet their website is not optimized for mobile. So anybody that wants to hit a brand.com from their smartphone gets an awful experience. So there's a lot of traffic there, just like in mobile. So I think that's part of the challenge, right? Is to get that.
And then the other side of it is, can you afford to not be in the iTunes store? Because that's where people find content, where some people find content. So it's a trade-off there.
I think also, Brendan, you hit on this, where monetizing the mobile traffic in other ways other than just sort of reach with calls to action. So we have a number of folks asking us to, it's okay that we drive people to their content, but what can we get them to do after that? Will they download an app? Will they sign up for a newsletter? And so forth. So other than that, what other ideas do you have around except slapping the banner or something there?
Yeah, I mean, I don't have a lot to be perfectly candid. I mean, I think we're still in the early stages of figuring out. I mean, the reality of this is, mobile is in a lot of ways still so early, and a lot of folks are flooding into the category. So trying to find the ways to capture that mind share and engage them like we do on the web is kind of our first priority. Monetization right now is largely display, and then we're starting to trickle that down and figuring out the other sources of all the action. So for us, it's a little too early to say what those are going to be.
Just want to pay up front.
We'd like both, actually. We'd like to have some ads and have them pay up front. We actually, in our initial versions of the site, have taken the same ads that are on the desktop sized screens and put those into the mobile experience. So they're big, but it's the same ad flowing through 5 or 6 different designs. And it's very usable, so it is possible to not have to treat the mobile site as a silo of advertising, I think, and have it still work. And so far, the advertisers have been okay. Their big ad, 300 by 250, is on the iPhone as well, and it's actually quite big, and I think it's doing pretty well. So we've just started to sort of mix things up a little bit.
So it's fair to say that if there are buyers out there that you guys aren't sold out.
That would be fair to say.
Yeah, that's you're up for a deal. Okay. So Corey, I think we're looking at 5 minutes-ish. So open it up for Q&A.
Sure.
Anybody have questions for these guys? Go ahead in the back.
I'm wondering what degree
Microphone's coming to you.
Hi, I was wondering to what degree you use localization in how you surface content on your various sites and how that plays into your strategy.
So for now, not a whole lot. I think it's something that we do want to do a lot more with. Fortunately, with HTML5, you do have access to the GPS of the device, so you don't need a native application to know where someone is. So we think localization is going to be vital to our advertising future. We operate a deals site just like about everyone else these days, but we see customizing deals and other local advertising to where you are. So it's definitely in our plan, although it's a bit early as we try to get the audience to be large enough.
Yeah, for Slate, we're more of a national publication, so we have less of a, I should say we've got a presence in some significant markets, New York, DC, San Francisco, LA, larger markets is where we see a lot of consumption. But in terms of targeting experiences and content and advertising, even that's, for us, it's probably even a little farther off than the Boston group, because we're trying to figure out, engaging ways kind of nationally and finding opportunities. So if we find national opportunities of scale, that'll be more advantageous to us than localization, at least in the early going. But naturally, as time goes on, we want to try and find a way to target content, particularly stuff we've done in different markets to an audience, but there's still ways to go.
I can add another piece to that too. I mean, when you think of localization, you're thinking about targeting to a certain audience. And what we're seeing is that localization can take another flavor with device targeting. So folks that are coming out with a product or service that want to hit folks hitting content on an Android or a tablet, there is actually reasonable demand for that type of audience segmentation. So another variation on localization that seems to be here. There we go. Do we have another question? Anybody else? Good. So yeah, feel free to ping these guys throughout the show. Thank you so much for coming. You guys have done some great work, and we're here for questions.